Some stream details failed to update. Uh-oh. Am I still on? It says that it failed to update. Anybody there? Can anybody hear me? Testing 1, 2. Am I on the other channel? This is a simulcast to all the other YouTube channels out there, out in the hinterlands out there. Let's see. Let's see if everybody's can see me here. We're going to be live in a few minutes. And for some reason, I can't find my other channel. Why is that? If I do a search. All right. So I am live, I guess. I'm live over here. What's going on, guys? All right. So I'm on 5 different channels here on YouTube, just giving out the alert, sending the alert because we're going to be live in just a few. And we don't want you to miss it. Because you know why? You won't know what's going on if you don't watch what we're talking about here, what we're unveiling here, the disclosure of what's happening, the real news behind what's actually being spoon-fed to the mind-numbed masses, vaccine-numbed masses that are believing all the hoopla and the propaganda and the lies. It's so disconcerting. You know, if I wasn't a believer, I'd be pretty, perplexed and probably disheartened. But I'm not perplexed or disheartened. I think it's actually what people need. I think it's what the doctor ordered. It's literally like, you got to lance a wound, you got to cleanse it, you got to purify it. Fire, it has to come because there's impurities everywhere. People are just completely compromised, and they're just needing judged. They need to be judged. This is an important part of fixing the problem. But many people don't see it yet. They're not going to get it until after the fact. Hopefully they're going to get it, but if they don't, then that's what just happens. That's what outer darkness is all about. Outer darkness. And, there's destiny for everyone in life, and that's, we just, at a certain point in time, I guess when everything is said and done, we're all going to be in the place we're supposed to be. Right. So in the meantime, we're supposed to do what we're supposed to do. And this is what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to tell you. I'm supposed to alert you. I'm supposed to wake up people to what's going on here. It's the way I look at it. I see it as a really deep, dark blindness that people have been shrouded with their hearts and minds. Their minds and their hearts are completely blocked to what's going on. And I'm not just talking politics here. This is really about what is truth. Remember when they brought Jesus up on charges in the I think it was the centurion or maybe it was one of the governors said to Jesus said, everybody who's of the truth listens to me. And then I think it was it Pilate? He said, what is truth? That was his response. What is truth? What is truth? Can you please tell me what truth is? Isn't truth relative? Depends on how you see things, how you perceive it. Your truth is your truth and my truth is mine. And doesn't mean that it's right or wrong. It's just, even if it contradicts, right? There's really nothing that's really true. It's basically what a lot of people believe. But Jesus said, everybody's of the truth listens to me. So you want to get to the truth of what's going on? Well, as it says in the book of Revelation, the testimony of Jesus is the spirit of prophecy. How are you going to even know what God really is fixing to do in the future or in the here and now? Because the here and now is the future. At this moment, we're entering into the future. Every minute of every day, you're going into future. But you can have a heads up on what's really happening if you have the spirit of prophecy, right? That's what it says. The Spirit not only was to lead us into all truth, but was to show us things to come. And not only to comfort, not only to be the Spirit of truth, not only be a light up, within your own heart and mind, but to show you things to come. So I'm just saying this: have an open heart and an open mind. There's a big difference between having an open heart. That's a little different than having an open mind. A lot of people think they have an open mind and they're willing to listen, but do they have the ability to perceive? A heart perceives, and wisdom comes and is received in that heart realm. You can have a head full of knowledge and be puffed up and completely oblivious and prideful. The pride is what puffs up, and or knowledge, it says, puffs up, but love edifies, right? So you want to have humility in a loving way that perceives and knows the thoughts of God. You have to be humble, right? Jesus said, I'm meek and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. You're going to find comfort and an awareness that comes with the reality of what really is true in your heart when you know Jesus, right? What does it say? So it says, receive with meekness the engrafted word, which is able to save your soul. If you don't have meekness, you don't receive it with humility, fear, and the fear of the Lord. There's no way you're going to perceive what reality is. You're not going to have a saved soul. You're going to have a soul that's lost. You're going to have a soul that's blind. You're going to have a heart that's hard. You're going to have a callous mind, ultimately a prideful, puffed up mind, but a callous heart. And you're not going to have the awareness of and the still small voice. You're not going to hear it. You're going to only hear the loud banging thunder of someone that's boasting about how utopia is upon us, and that we're the golden age of humanity. Like we're all entering into some kind of Star Wars, Star Trek world that's going to, it's really a dystopian nightmare. So I'm going to be live in just a few minutes. And I just wanted to put this out here so I can make sure I get everybody's attention on the other channels that are lagging, that still haven't signed up to the main channel. The main channel is right here. So for those that are looking at the chat, this is the main channel right here. Can you see that? Did it even? Oh, you know what did I do here? Oh, you know what I did? Okay. Why did it? Oh, I see. Wait a minute. How come it didn't give a link? Let me go through my okay, let's try that. I'll put it in here in this link here section here. Hopefully that link works. Tell me if that link works. Oh, watch the link not work. Let me make sure. Okay, good. Yeah, so we're going to be live over there in just a few minutes. All right, guys. So get ready. I'm going to kind of break down what's happening. Some big time things happening here. Okay. And we'll be live in just a few minutes. Let me kind of look at some of your comments here really quick before I go. We have to be humble like a little child. Amen. Unless you're converted and become like a child, you shall in no way enter into the kingdom, it says. Unless you're converted. That means you have to have a little bit of trust, humility. You got to know what faith really is, right? What is it? It's not being childish, it's being childlike, right? In nature. Let your nature be like a child. A child believes implicitly, trusts its parent without any doubt. It doesn't wonder if the parent is going to provide. It just knows that the parent has its best interest. And that's the way you should be with God. You should not have any doubts or fears or worries, unless, of course, there's, something in your own heart that, is embracing some rebellion. And then, yeah, you're going to have fear. You're going to have doubt. You're going to have questions. But the more, life throws at us, as time goes on and terrible things happen in the world. That's just the nature of the world that we live in. Your understanding of God's goodness and grace and mercy, even in the midst of wicked, evil men and women, we were talking about a demonically charged world. You take as an example Jesus. What did he do? He prayed for his enemies while he's on the cross. And he said, Father, forgive them. Can you do that? All right. Well, with God's help and the presence of God in your life, you may be able to do that one day. Who knows? I'm not saying you're going to go to a cross or anything. Well, you might have to go through suffering in that way. You might have to have a physical persecution. There's been many men and women throughout history that have had to give their lives for the faith. So I'm not saying it won't happen, but going through life with the right mentality and heart, for is so important to being able to know, what real truth is. And that's really about the truth. That's what we're trying to talk about here. But anyways, I'm going to get into the gist of what's going on politically here in a few minutes and maybe some predictions of what I think is coming from what I see unfolding right now. And I'll give you kind of a heads up on what I think is happening. Not to mention a little bit of good word. We all need the good word, right? We all need the good book to guide us in principle and in truth and in spirit. This is a breakthrough kind of moment for people. I think with hardships, people begin to search for answers, and that's when God answers. That's when God opens a door of understanding, is when people are, they really get serious. And maybe that's kind of the breakthrough moment where they begin to say, hey, you know what, maybe God is, maybe God is who he says he is, and maybe the book is true, and maybe I should give my whole life and heart to the pursuit of that treasure. That's a treasure that's not of the earth. And you're not going to be just putting all your eggs in this basket. I'm not saying you can't have eggs in the basket here in the world, but as the Bible says, you're in the world, but you're not of it. You can't be looking at the world as your source. It's not the foundation. It's not the heart's desire. It should not even be, it should not even be looked after. It's like Lot and his wife. She looked at the world. He didn't. He just kept on trucking, trying to get out of there because he knew there was judgment coming. You know what I mean? He was like, get me out of here. But if you look back and you keep you've got longing for the world system and the things that are in the world, you're not a friend of God. It says anybody who's a friend of the world is not a friend of God. So if you're a friend of this world and you love this world and you're claimed to be a Christian, or if you're not a Christian, you're coming into the faith, and you have to leave it. You have to let it all go. You have to really pursue. What does it mean to have and be in possession of the kingdom of God? What does that mean? It's totally opposite of the world's kingdom, the world's way, the world's thought, and that motivating principle that you would say is a life principle. It's not the same. It's a totally different. It's like, as the heavens are higher than the earth, so are my thoughts higher than your thoughts. It's his ways are not our ways, and you can't even begin to fathom how far below our own understanding God is, how far above he is, and how far below we are of him. And until you begin to perceive that, distance between us and God, only then, will you begin to fear and tremble that, hey, I pray God opens my understanding and leads me into all truth, because without all truth, the Bible says all truth. It doesn't say a portion of the truth. It doesn't say just a little bit of truth. It says he will lead us into all truth. That means that you're coming into the fullness of what truth was meant to do. It was to usher you into the presence of God himself. Ultimately, at one point in time, and as we cross over into that eternal realm, you will be standing in the presence of eternal, full truth, fullness of truth. And you become like him. As it says, we will see him as he is, for we will be like him, for we will see him as he is. When the perfect comes, that which is in part, when the perfect comes, that which is in part, it says, it goes, we prophesy in part, we know in part, but when the perfect comes, we shall know even as we are known. We're going to know everything. We're going to know as God understands and sees who we are now. once we get past the, that veil, we're going to know even as we are known. And that's the truth that everybody's trying to, that's what nirvana is. That's what, people are looking for, enlightenment. They're looking for the divine, they're always trying to find some edge that's going to give them some, some extra kind of influence. And that's why people, they're always looking for some help from outside themselves, whatever that is, an idol or some other power, their higher power, the 12-step program. They're looking for a higher power. They're looking for some kind of help from somewhere. And, there's counterfeits. There's always going to be someone knocking on your door trying to give you a gospel when you're in a time of need. Here, we're the Mormons. We're here to help. Or Jehovah's Witnesses. We're here to help. Somebody's going to be there trying to help you when you need something. And I'm not just going to tell you that it's not always God. Sometimes the devil's right there too. So you got to be careful. All right. So we'll be live in just a few minutes. There's a lot going on, and I'm going to go into all the details of what's happening. Loud explosions are now happening inside of Russia. Lots of stuff going on in Ukraine. Middle East is blowing up, even worse than it was. And also what's happening here domestically at home. It's really amazing to me to sit here and watch all this unfold, because it is in line with biblical prophecy. And people don't really see the connections. And I'm going to try to help everybody see how it all fits. Okay?